Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die: A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And just a reminder, my home base is wedon'tdie.com, where you can always find medium classes, demonstrations, a free copy of my book. At the very bottom of the page, it says join our Insiders Club, and it says you get the first few chapters, but it's the whole book. So many things there and more. We offer a free Sunday gathering with medium demonstration too. That's all at wedon'tdie.com. Now, on to our episode. I must tell you that for the past 10 minutes, my special guest and I have been working very hard to get her camera to work. So we do not have her live video today, just a picture of her beautiful self, but we're going to go ahead anyways with the interview. Our guest is the author of the book called Spiritual Knowings. In the book, Caroline Rollo shares the many spiritual happenings that have affected her life over the past 73 years and why she believes there's no such thing as a coincidence. She also shares many spiritual subjects in easy-to-follow steps with knowledge of what spiritualism is all about and how it can help you in your everyday life. Ultimately, to never fear death and never feel lonely again. Caroline, welcome to We Don't Die.
Thank you, Sandra. It's nice for you to invite me.
I'm thrilled. We met through Facebook, and I'm always interested in what people are doing. And up popped you with your book, and I looked a little bit about your history, and I thought you'd be somebody for sure that my listeners would love to hear from. Tell us a little bit about you. Where in the world are you right now, and some of your history into spiritualism?
Okay. Well, I live in a town in Bedfordshire. It's more of a village called Eaton Bray. It's a very quaint village with lovely people. But I originally was born in another village called Bushy, which is in Hertfordshire. This is in England. And my life has been a roller coaster of different events. And my mother was Gibraltarian. My father was a Geordie and came from the north of England. And their story was a true love story. And that's how I kind of sort of start my beginnings, because they had such a rough start in life. I think you'll know that Gibraltar was, in the war, it was the key place to be because it was the British base. And it was a very, very important place for the British to be. So my father went across there to Gibraltar and met my mum when she was 14, and they fell in love. And mum was evacuated from Gibraltar when the war really got going. And fate had it that although he carried on with his army life, she actually was evacuated to England. So they managed to meet up again after the war, and the rest was history. But it's a love story, a real love story. I mean, Gibraltar is the gateway to the Med, so it was a very strategic place. And there was a lot of hardship, a lot of bombing. The evacuees had to go through an awful time and were sent all around the world so our British troops could have somewhere safe to be. And I think through growing up, I've had the warmth and the beautiful Gibraltarian spirit in me, and also the Geordie North of England spirit in me. And it was a wonderful, wonderful way to be, because I've always been taught ever since I was little, especially by my grandmother, to give and you will receive. That was my grandmother's motto: you give and you will receive.
Beautiful.
And my mum, bless her heart, always used to say, if you love, you'll be loved. And I've lived by that all my life. And you know, Sandra, as well as I do, the world isn't a very kind place at the moment. We've got wars, we've got problems, we've got financial problems, people are in turmoil. Charities like Mind and other charities that are helping people cope with anxiety are out there trying to help. But You know, there are some simple basics about this. To love is to be loved, and to give is to receive. And I think they're two key things. If we can share a little bit more, like the work you're doing, like the people you're trying to reach, to show that there's hope. It's not just a dark black hole at the end of it all. There is hope.
There
The
is.
way we live our lives now, I think, will help us for an easy transition later on.
I agree. Caroline, did your parents believe in the afterlife growing up? Was spiritualism part of it?
My mother very much so. I lost my mum to cancer when I was young, and I took a lot of years helping to look after her. But she was very, very much a spiritual person. And my father he had to be convinced, shall I say, because he went through an awful lot in the war, and he was a POW in Germany for 3.5 years. So I think when you've gone through an experience like that, it's very hard to think of the afterlife and, this is just another journey, because he probably would have thought, well, what did I do to deserve this journey? Because he had a very, very bad time. But I think because of my mum's influences, and when I nursed her through the cancer, as did my sister, we were very young, but she used to tell us stories of spirits and spirituality, and she loved mediumship and anything like that. She wasn't a practicing medium, she was just a very spiritual person. And I've always said you don't have to be a medium to feel spirit around you. You don't have to be a medium standing on platform or giving readings or doing cards. If you're a spiritual person, it's just a knowing, and hence the name of the book, Spiritual Knowings. When you know that spirit's around you and you feel spirit around you, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And for those listeners that are listening to this, if you feel alone, I can assure you, you're not alone. Army of people behind you, supporting you, helping you, but we just don't see it. We don't recognize it in everyday life. Life is so busy.
Yes.
But, there are so many signs of spirit around us that sometimes we just don't see it.
For you, Caroline, growing up, having a mom that believed is wonderful. But I think there's a point where each one of us, no matter what faith we have to go from that belief in the faith to a knowing. When did you start having your own experiences of knowing? And what were
I
they?
think when I was a child, I would literally, if a friend at school fell over or hurt themselves or did anything like, I'd start laying hands and they'd say, the teachers would say, Caroline, what are you doing? And I said, I'm healing. I'm giving her some healing. And it's sort of a feeling you have inside you that you've got more energy, you've got something to give. And if you can't give something, money, or you can't help in any other way, you can give healing, because we've all got that in us to give that healing and that help to others. And when I was young, I think it just came very, very natural. I would I would go out and I would see at the end of an old piece of rope I used to drag round a beautiful Alsatian dog. And I loved this dog, didn't name it anything. It would never be in the house with me. It would always be outside when I went to play. I must have been about 5 or 6. And, I used to get people laughing at me saying, what are you doing with that old bit of string? And I'd say, I'm taking my dog for a walk. I could see this dog, enormous ears, beautiful Alsatian. I'd even stop at lampposts, and they must have thought I was absolutely balmy, but I could see this dog clear as anything. And, I'd go to school and I'd see my dog there out in the playground. But then everybody else, 5 years old, was galloping around pretending they were riding horses and things like that. So it wasn't really unusual. It was just one of those things. But later on in life, much later in life, when I needed it most, this dog actually came to me through my father, and my father had found a dog, and he said it needed a home. It was out on a common somewhere late one night that he found it very bedraggled and very sorry for itself. And he said to me, well, you must come up to work. You must come up to work. I've found a dog and it needs a home. So I'm going to keep it at work as a guard dog. And I went there and there was that dog, my spirit guide. He was with my dad for a reason, because my mum had passed and my dad had gone through a very bad time. And I think that dog came to him for a reason. And it changed my dad's life, having that dog in his life. So these are things that you try to tell people. There's no such thing as a coincidence. Things happen for a reason. But whoever's listening to this, when you're really down, when you're really lonely, I think it's things like that that you have to hold on to. It's things like that that you think there is more. People are not listening for answers. People are trying to make the answers up themselves. But if you really listen for the answers, you'll see we're all here for a reason. If you put your hands on your chest, the first thing you feel, your heartbeat. You're here for a reason. So there's an old Winston Churchill saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. And I think that's very wise, because we all have traumas in our life. We all have loved ones that we've lost. And the reason for me doing this book was not just to be a medium and give readings. I've done that for over 25 years and it was lovely. But I want to make people know that you don't have to be a medium to talk to spirit. Talk to them in your head all the time. They're listening. Just be confident that, you will get answers.
Thank
It's a
you.
very lonely place when you've lost somebody, isn't it, Sandra?
Very, very lonely. After your mom passed,
Mm.
I guess what the question I'm asking is, when did you start realizing, besides the dog, that people were still around? Did you have any, and did your mom connect with you?
Mum always, she was, bless her, she was very ill. She had cancer and passed, took 5 years, bless her heart, but she was very ill. And her strong faith always made me question everything. I wasn't an actual working medium or anything like that. I was too young and getting on with life. I like boys and I like school and everything like that. So because my mum was so strong, I thought that strength has got to come from somewhere. And she was writing to a chap called Harry Edwards, who was a very famous healer. And Harry would write handwritten letters to Mum, giving her encouragement. And I said to her one day, not long before her passing, I said, all these letters from Harry, and I said, you haven't got better. Does it ever make you think, no, she said, that's not what it's about. It's about an easier transition. Because there's more. There's much more. And, she's right. I know that now. I didn't actually start working on platform until I was in my late 40s. But things happen in life and they point you in different directions. And I think if something's meant to be, it'll be. And you
Has your
can't.
mom,
Sorry?
sorry to interrupt you because I can't
No.
see you. I can't.
Yes, I know.
We do the best we can with that little dance. Has your mom come through with readings, or have you yourself felt her presence? I think what
Um,
I'm wondering, Caroline,
yeah.
is we have a lot of people listening here for the very
Mm.
first time and are really hoping to hear some stories of why you believe, and your words hit home. They all do. But sometimes some of those stories of either readings that you've given or things that have happened, like the dog story, those touch our heart and give
Mm,
us hope that if that's happened to you, that they may happen to us. So I think
mm.
that's why I'm wondering if you've had signs from your mom or she's come through on readings.
Not so much from my mum, because mum and I used to talk in the afternoons and have little conversations about this. And I said to her, "Will you come through to me when you pass?" And she said, "I shall be happy in love and light. And you will wait to see me, but I won't wait to see you." And I didn't understand that until years later, because I used to go to mediums and, try and get a message from mum myself. And I went to this lady, and she was very, very kind, elderly lady. And she said, "You're wanting it too much. Stop wanting it so much and it will happen." So she said, "Try and put your mum in a happy box moment when you two had a good old belly laugh together." And she said, "Then you'll draw her closer." And I think what I'd done every time I was thinking of mum, I was so unhappy. I was so sad. And even since dad's passing, I was so unhappy and so sad. My aura was really close to me. If anybody had seen me, they would have said, "Oh, she doesn't look in a very good mood today," because the aura says it all. But when you're thinking happy thoughts, when you're thinking fun thoughts, your aura can come out 25 yards. And when you're happy and your aura comes out 25 yards, spirit can come in. They can come closer. So I came home from school one day and I used to shout through the letterbox to mum, "Gilly," like that, "Gilly." And I'd see her trot along from the kitchen to open the door for me to let me in. Well, this day, I opened the letterbox and I went to shout "Cooey," looking through the letterbox, and she went to blow in my face, but she spat in my eye. It was just so awful. And she opened the door. She said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that." And we both fell about. We both sort of ran up the stairs and had to, who had to get to the loo first, because we was laughing so much. And I thought, "Oh, I don't know. I'll give it a go." I kind of, you know, thought of that moment when we had a good old belly laugh together. And I closed my eyes and I had the most amazing feeling that she was with me. And when you close your eyes at night, if you think of a loved one and you think of that happy box moment, you'll see coming towards you green. And that green is a love color. You'll see coming towards you blue, and that is a healing color. And then you might sense a smell, or you just might feel that person with you, because they just fill your mind. You don't have to physically see somebody walking towards you that have passed. You can sense them. And I realized I'm clairsensing because that's how I work. There are different ways you can clairaudient, where you get a voice in your ear, clairvoyant, where you see spirit walking about. But clairsensing is just a knowing that they are there, because you're suddenly at peace about the situation. If someone's listening that's lost somebody recently, they're probably laying in bed at night thinking of that person, and the tears start to flow and the heart's starting to ache really painfully. It's a pain. It's a genuine pain. I would say, think of a happy box moment. Just when you're thinking about them, just hold on to that one moment where you both had a good laugh together. And you close your eyes just for a little while and see that color coming towards you. And it's a wonderful feeling, Sandra. It's like, I don't know, it's like connection for the first time, and you just know that they're there. It's beautiful.
I
Beautiful.
I haven't had the experience with color, but I've had the feeling.
Yes.
And I think what happens often, Caroline, is people brush it off that it's just their imagination.
Mm. Yes.
Could you
And I
talk a
can
little bit
understand.
about that?
Yes, I can understand that because some people get like a little blink in the side of the eye. It's almost like a twitch in the side of the eye, but it's a pulsating little on one side of the eye. Usually it's the right side of the eye will pulsate slightly. That's when spirit draws near. Some people get chills because spirit has drawn near. Others, it's like a cobweb feeling. You're going around your eyebrows trying to think, where's that hair? Where's that hair? It's in my eyes. It's a feeling unlike any other. And if somebody was to sort of touch your hair, it's a feeling on top of your crown of your head that you feel, ah, there's somebody round. You can't put your finger on it. It's just a gut feeling. It's your yellow chakra exploding, saying, gut feeling, something's good. You know, if you're walking down the street and you're going to walk down the street and you think, I'll cut through the alley, I'll go the short way. And then you get that gut feeling that says, no, stick to the high street, walk the safe way. Then you're starting to work. You're starting to use all these beautiful chakras we've been given to help us. And the yellow chakra is the gut feeling. If you go with your gut feeling, that feels like mum, that feels like dad, that feels like my brother or my sister, then go with it and see how you feel, because it's lovely. It's lovely. Many, many times I've had spiritual experiences, but it's very difficult to put into words, but it's a knowing. It's a real knowing. When I worked in churches, the hardest thing, I think, if somebody's lost a child, because I immediately get emotional myself, and it's very, very hard to say to somebody, you'll get over it, you'll get better. You can't say those words because you never get over. I'm 73. I'm still missing my mum and my dad and my grandmother. But it's how you cope with it that's the important thing over
When
the
you,
years.
Caroline, when you worked as a medium, say you were on a platform and loved ones would come through you, say a child or come to you,
Yes.
like the dog, did you see them? Did you just feel them? Could you just explain what it was like for you? I know every medium
Yes.
is different, but what was it
Yes.
like for you?
With the way I work, I get pictures in my head. When I start to work, I'll give you an example. I was working locally in a spiritual church. This was about, 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And I went to a young girl and I said, oh, I've got a young man here, but I'm holding my head because my head, felt a pressure on my head. I said, do you know anyone that's passed with, you know, a bad pain in their head? So she said, yes, I do. So I said, "Oh, okay." I said, is there somebody close to you that I know he wants to get a message to? So she said, I'm sitting next to his mum. And I didn't realize that when I went to the young girl, that the woman sitting next to her was his mum. But she was a school friend of his, and the mum had gone with her to see if there was a message from her son. So I said to the lady, and you've got to be very careful because this is somebody's son I'm talking about. And I said, here's Martin. So she said, that's my husband. So I said, love to Martin. Now, that didn't come as a message in my ear. It was all thoughts. That name popped into my head, Martin. Ask Martin. So I had to say, who's Martin? And that turned out to be his dad and her husband. And that lady was upset because obviously I'd given her a very, very good message. But I spoke to her afterwards and she said, no, I feel so relieved. She said, I know he's okay. And that is what made me carry on with mediumship, because people need that connection. It's no good me saying in a hall, your mother's passed, your father's passed. Everybody's lost somebody at some time. But if you give a name, if you give a feeling or a sensing of what they passed with, then it really connects with that person that you're reading for. And I think it's very important. Mediums have a responsibility to get it right. And I think that's the key. If you go for a reading and, they say, oh, your mother passed, your father passed, it means nothing when you come away because it leaves you cold. But if you actually say something, your grandfather was called Chico, they smile, their faces light up and they go, oh, yes, yes. And I said, well, he's with you. You've got an army of people with you. But he popped up just to the front to say hello. He loves you very much. That's all you need to say. With babies, it's very difficult. If somebody's lost a baby, they haven't gone full term, because that's just as painful as you losing somebody that you've known for years, because it's been part of you. It's part of the creation. And people worry about babies that pass to spirit without going full term. But they do pass, and they grow in spirit, and they're still with their loved ones. And they know they're never forgotten. When you lose a child, I lost my first one, but I didn't go full time and it was very early. But I still class that as a little spirit that touched base and went back. And you hold on to that happy thought, and it just helps you get through the next day, and then the next week, and then the next month, and the next year. And you just start to feel happier about things. Not saying it's, I'm always right about everything. I'm not. But people, even with their pets, people get so attached to pets. I'm a cat person, so it's cats for me, but it's dogs for some, or horses. But pets go through to spirit world. And quite often when I'm reading, I go, oh gosh, my legs are freezing. I said, there's a dog here. And I always get cold legs when the spirit dog's close. And they go, yes, yes, that's my dog. And their faces actually light up. And that's what makes it worth it.
Thank you for that. As we are recording this, we are going into the holiday season. Oh, Christmas and New Year's. And
Yeah.
Carolina, it's a real tough time when we have loved ones in the spirit world. We want to believe they're with us. We're doing our best to pay attention to our feelings, but times can be tough. What advice would you have?
Is not to put them in a picture and forget them. Talk to them. I mean, it's like when somebody has lost somebody, it's like people don't want to talk about them. If you lost, for instance, if you lost a loved one, I'd say, oh, I talk about John, or I talk about somebody, John's just jumped into my head, but I talk about that person to you because I'd say they existed. Don't try to upset people by not talking about them. Talk about them, and then you'll find when people talk about loved ones lost, it brings them closer. Things are put into the cupboards and, into a photo, and don't put the photo up. It might upset somebody, or no, celebrate their life. If you're sitting around a table and, somebody's been lost and that table, that seat is empty, raise a glass to them, say cheers, bring them into the celebration, because spirit are around. And when I worked in the church, if the atmosphere in the church was a happy one, even if I, went to a step off platform and fell flat on my face, which I used to do quite a lot, we laugh about it. Everybody starts laughing, and the messages are great. If it's too dour and it's something like a scene from the Titanic, everybody's very, abide with me gets sung and it's all very low. The messages are hard work because everyone's sitting there with their arms crossed, like prove it. And you're thinking, oh God, I'm not going to be able to work tonight. You have a laugh with somebody, wow, spirit come in. It's all about your attitude and it's all about people being happy, then spirit can draw close.
I
That's the
like
key.
that. I really
That's
like
the
that.
key. Yeah. I mean, when you lose somebody, I talk about my mum, I talk about my dad, and I talk about my grandmother a lot because I'm very close to her. And it's therapeutic, it's lovely. If I bash my elbow and say a naughty word, as we do, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." I say, "Sorry, mum." Or, if I get cigarette smoke and I can sense cigarette smoke around me, I sense that's my dad. And it's things like that. The clair-sensing kicks in, and it's you just know spirits around you.
These are great words. I think what's really interesting and that we have to underline is the good feelings, the shared memories, the positivity. I know how bad grief hurts. I do, and I
Mm,
know there's many people listening right now who are suffering. So it seems hard to even want to contemplate going down memory lane or thinking of those good feelings. But the thing
mm,
is it can help, I mean, really can help with communication and feeling their presence, but also when we're grieving, our whole biology changes. And when we can experience something lighthearted or take that walk down memory lane, it
mm.
does so much to help us through our grieving process, and it helps us to connect with our loved ones. So I'm asking anyone who's listening right now to just maybe challenge yourself a little bit. Set up times that you are walking down memory lane, thinking of those good and happy feelings, or at the holiday table, whether it's talking about your deceased loved one or not, get involved in a conversation about what are your happiest memories, or do you remember when your child was born, or where's your favorite vacation place, or have you ever laughed so hard that you went running for the toilet? Bring up these conversations and
Yeah,
then pay attention. Being in that present moment, sometimes thoughts come in out of nowhere, and that's your loved ones too saying, how about this time, remember this, and
yeah.
have that trust and faith that it is them. They work through whatever we call that creative side of us that we say is our imagination, but that's how they come in with those pictures, those memories, those feelings.
Absolutely. And I think when you talk to spirit, there's one thing you do say, and you ask for your protection around you, always. You just wave imagine a nice gold band, wave it around yourself and ask to be kept in love and light. And then you can imagine this gold band right around your house and ask for your house to be in love and light. And then you can ask your loved ones to come in. Whenever you're dealing with spirit, cloak yourself, be in that beautiful bubble of love and light. And then you've got to sit down and just think of a happy moment and then invite your loved one to come close. And it changes the way you think because you know they walk with you, you know that they're with you. And I think it helps heal and bring the worlds a bit closer together. Spirit world, in my opinion, isn't sitting up on a cloud somewhere. It's in another dimension. When our spirit leaves our body, when we finally go, our body stays behind, our brain stays behind, but our spirit leaves our body with our consciousness. And that's what I connect with. I'm not connecting with a spirit body walking around. I'm connecting with their consciousness because they are now an energy free of pain, free of suffering, and they're in a happy place. So I think that's what you have to hold on to.
Thank you for that. Tell us about your book, Spiritual Knowings. What had you write
Well,
it? What's in the book? What hints can you give
oh,
us from the book?
well, the spiritual knowings is celebrating my family to start with. It just tells her about mum's evacuation, and it tells about my life growing up and different things that have happened to me along the way, pointing me towards spirit all the time. And the second part of the book is a workshop, and it's been put in there because when I was a fledgling, when I first started doing mediumship, there wasn't anything I could go to that would just put it all under one umbrella. How to contact spirit. Do I work as a clairaudient? Am I a psychic? If I pick something up, can I get a vibration from it? I didn't know how I was going to work. So I put hints in there how to protect yourself, and the whole workshop for anybody that's thinking about connecting, they can do it safely. It's a beautiful thing. And it's once you start connecting with spirit and you have your protection around you, then you think differently. You're not frightened of passing. I'm never frightened of passing because I know it's just another journey. This is my roadmap in this life, but it's just another journey. And it's hard to think of connecting with somebody else's consciousness, but they're the people that put things in my mind. So if I said to you, or Bruce Springsteen, I can't say his name, but you've got a picture in your head, right?
Right.
You've got a picture of him in your head. That's how I get spirit. If I said Donald Trump, you've got another picture in your head. Okay? That's how spirit give it to me. I get pictures in my head. It's their consciousness giving my consciousness a picture. So that's how I see things. I don't actually see things walking around. I see it in my head. That's how I work. And from that, I draw spirit close, and then the messages just flow. I'm retired now. I'm quite happy. I just do workshops for people, and we talk about spirit, and I encourage them to connect with themselves because that's what it's all about.
Great advice. I know spirit works in different ways, and we humans, some of us are more feeling, some more visual, some more auditory. I know
That's
I've
right.
had times that I've been in workshops and I've had tastes of beer and cigarette smoke on my tongue and
Yeah.
smelled things. And
Yeah.
so we still have our personalities, and our loved ones and spirit friends still do too. So
Yes.
it can be a fun adventure on how they work with us. And you
Yes.
mentioned protection. The way I visualize it is just a bubble of love.
You are in love and light. You've surrounded yourself with love and light. We all have guides. We all have helpers. We all have loved ones helping us through the rest of this journey. So I would say to anyone out there that's really, really suffering because they've lost a loved one, just hang on in there, hold on to that happy moment, and it will change your life. You'll feel much better about things.
Thank you. Look, you mentioned spirit guides.
Mm.
Could you talk a little bit more about that and how we can connect with them? And
Yes, I do talk about them in the book because they're very important. I have a Chinese guide for knowledge. I have a Arab gentleman called Ashud that came to me in a meditation. And I have an Indian guide. I've got 4, don't worry, they won't go on forever, but I've got an Indian guide called White Feather who came to me in a circle when I was in a circle group. And I went through the house saying, for goodness sake, if I can't picture you in my head, can you show me what you look like? And in my hallway in the mirror, it started to get very cloudy. And I suddenly saw a feather appearing in the mirror. And I gradually started to take photos of this. And his face came up in the mirror to show me exactly what he looked like. It was absolutely wonderful. I've got photographic evidence in the book because I thought, oh my God, nobody will believe me. And when he came up, it was just confirmation. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. And people that I read for when I was working from home used to walk through the hall and go, he's still there. And I used to think, yeah, great, because he'd come and then he'd disappear and he'd come. But the amount of people that seen him, it was wonderful. And my last guide is a Zulu warrior. And this is where you think, I've really lost the plot. But I was sitting in my lounge and I thought I was getting a migraine. I suffer sometimes with migraine. And when you get the swirling, the jazzies and everything like that. And it was in the corner of the room, and I looked towards the garden just to rest my eyes, and I thought, "Oh, my eyes are all right." So I looked back at the room, and there was the swirling, and it was a vortex opening, and this was a portal, and there stood the most amazing Zulu warrior I've ever seen. And I was scared. I closed my eyes straight away, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm going balmy." And as I closed my eyes, I got all the chakras in order. And I opened my eyes and he'd gone, and I heard healing guide. So his name is Matoba, and I thought that's my healing guide. And it happened within a matter of moments, but it'll stay with me forever. You have to have your own experiences. I believe people when they talk about vortexes and portals because I think we've got them all over the world. We've got a very angry planet right now, and a lot of these vortexes and these portals are there. And I'm just hoping and praying we just get the peace we deserve on this planet, Mother Earth, because vortexes and portals are very real and they do open to other dimensions. So I respect anyone, even if they're Ghostbusters and they're talking about UFOs or aliens, and I respect it all because I've had weird and wonderful things happen to me. So why not? Why not?
Right. How can we work with our own spirit guides and trust that they are there?
Well, I think the only thing you can do is ask them to show themselves. And the way they show themselves is normally 3 times they'll appear to you to try and point you in the right direction. And you get a feeling about something. Sometimes they're a totem guide, which can be an animal that you're particularly drawn to or that you feel close to. Or sometimes they can be something weird and wonderful, like a soldier or a monk or a nun. They're never Joe Blogs from, round the corner. They're always something rather grand. But I think when you get a sense of what they're like, I was working with a lady 2 days ago, and I said to her, "I think your spirit guide is a power animal." So she said, "Yes," she said, "I'm quite drawn to lions." So I said, "Well, there we go." So as she got up from my sofa's very, very plain grey, there was the face of a lion. And we took a photo of it, and she took it home with her, really chuffed. And she said 2 more times after that, she had contact with things that were lions. So I said, "Well, they've tried to show you 3 times. This is your totem guide. This is your spirit guide." So if you see something 3 times, you can say that's your guide. Another lady came to me, she said, "I'm very drawn to wolves." So I said, "Okay." Well, I said, "Look for signs." I said, "But they'll let you know if it's a wolf." I don't like giving guides as a rule because you have to find it yourself. And she left my house and she drove down the road. She let a 4x4 go by. She went to follow it. And on the back wheel was the picture of a wolf. So she said, she rang me when she got home. She was so excited. She said, "I practically followed that 4x4 all the way home." She said, "And it was a wolf." So I said, "Well, they're telling you, yes, it's a wolf." So it's confirmation. You have to look for these things, but it's amazing.
Would you recommend that people keep a journal of signs that they get in these
Yes,
3 times? Because it's so easy coming from one human being to another. Just
yes,
brush off that that didn't really happen. I've forgotten.
yes.
Talk about
I would recommend, yes, sometimes leave a book by the side of your bed at night because sometimes they come to you in dream state. And it's a lovely feeling if you dream about something, but if you write it in a journal and then the next day, or that you have a coincidence, if you like, where that sort of, it might be a dream about tiger, and then you see a tiger in a painting and tiger on telly. They're trying to say a tiger is your totem guide. Or if it's a person, you'll just get that name crop up several times. So I would say, yes, the synchronicities of it are so strong. You have to find out for yourself. I don't like giving guides out to people, but you'll get a sense and a knowing who your
Thank
guide
you.
is. But
I
you do have a lot of guides, you have a lot of helpers around you. So it's just a case of calling. You have to talk to spirit. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's another thing my mum used to say. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you want to know who your guides are, you ask them. You say, Spirit, come on, tell me, who are my guides? And they'll start showing you.
I like your mom. If you don't ask, you don't get, and you have to give in order to receive. Some
Yeah.
basic things that make the world of difference.
Yeah, you have to go back to basics where spirit concerned, because I think, you know, just because they pass through to another dimension doesn't mean they're not there. They're
That's right.
there. Consciousness is theirs. How many times have you really thought about a friend and you just keep thinking about this one friend and they ring you? Our consciousness is stronger than we know. And, sometimes when you meditate, don't meditate late at night. You're too tired. You fall asleep. You leave yourself open if you've opened your chakras. So I'd say do it when you're wide awake, when you can enjoy it. And some people have sleep paralysis where spirit come in so close they can't move. They're pinned to the bed. Your consciousness has to be stronger than that of spirit. So you have to say in your head, can you back off a bit, please? It's uncomfortable. You're in charge. It's your consciousness. You're in charge. And once spirit know that, and they know you want to connect, but you do it under your terms.
Thank you. Caroline, what closing words would you have for our listener today?
I would say no matter how you're missing somebody, and or you feel you will never see them again, hold on to the feeling that you will see them again. And love is never lost. Love is always there.
Beautiful words. Caroline, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. You're my first podcast, I have to say. And I'm very, very nervous about it when I first went on. But you made me so welcome. Thank you, Sandra.
You're most welcome. And for anyone, I get nervous and excited before these interviews too. But once we share what we love, we can never go wrong. As a
Yes.
reminder, you can pick up her book, Spiritual Knowings. It's on Amazon, might be the easiest way to get it. As a reminder, my home base is we-don't-die.com, and there's always so many good things going on there. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, main page, we-don't-die.com, it says you can join my Insiders Club. That's just my email list, fancy term. It says you get the first few chapters of my book. It's the entire book, the entire book. And why that's important is chapter 10 is about surviving grief. And I know whether it's the holiday season or any time of the year, grief is, I think, the worst pain we human beings feel. So that will give you really some tools and some comfort. And also, there's some other good things in there as well. So that's my book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Also, 2 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday, which is 7 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. California time. We offer what's called a free Sunday gathering. It's an inspirational, non-denominational service online on Zoom, lasts about 90 minutes. They're so positive, they're so joyful, and at the end of each and every one, there's a medium demonstration. So loved ones come through from our online gathering. So I hope you join us for that. In closing, my name is Sandra Champlain. I'm always so happy to be your host on We Don't Die. I do believe that life is an education for the soul and that your life here on earth is so important. It is a difficult road, life is. It's very, very difficult. But I love sprinkling in some laughter, happy memories, giving in order to receive, or just giving in order to give. And love, bottom line, is the most powerful force in the universe. So I really want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.